In the mountains of northern Japan, far beyond the reach of modern roads, there lay a forgotten place called Shirasawa. The winters came early there, wrapping the land in white silence, and the summers were brief, heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. The villagers who once lived there had long since gone, some to the cities, others to the grave. Only the wind remained, howling through the crumbling houses, carrying with it whispers that no one dared to answer. At the very edge of the abandoned village stood an old shrine, its roof sagging under the weight of years. Moss covered its stone steps, and the paper charms that once fluttered at its gate had long since turned to brown tatters. No one prayed there anymore. They said the shrine had once been dedicated to a forgotten kami, a god whose name was no longer spoken. And they said, too, that at night, a pale light sometimes flickered inside. This light belonged to the lantern of the 1,000 souls. The stranger. One autumn evening, when the mist was rolling down the mountains like a slow, gray tide, a young man named Ren came to Shirasawa. He was not a villager, but a wandering storyteller who made his living by trading tales for food and shelter. He had heard of the village from an old innkeeper in the valley below, who told him, "You'll find no audience there. Only ghosts." Ren had laughed, thinking it was a jest. But he had also heard something else, the innkeeper's whisper that if he could bring back the lantern of the 1,000 souls, he would be rewarded more than he could imagine. The road to Shirasawa was steep and overgrown, the stones slick with moss. As he climbed, Ren felt the air grow colder. By the time he reached the first ruined house, the daylight had already faded to a deep indigo. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the creak of wood somewhere in the darkness. He found the shrine easily enough, it seemed to wait for him at the far end of the path, half hidden in the mist. And there, through the rotting doorway, he saw it, a lantern hanging from the ceiling, swaying gently though there was no wind. Its paper was yellowed, and on it were painted strange characters he could not read. The light inside was soft and cold, like moonlight caught in a jar. The keeper of the light. Ren stepped inside. The moment his foot crossed the threshold, the air seemed to thicken, heavy with the scent of old incense. The lantern swayed once, as if acknowledging his presence. "Do not touch it." The voice came from the shadows. Ren turned and saw an old woman sitting near the back of the shrine. Her hair was white as snow, her face lined like cracked porcelain. She wore a faded indigo kimono and watched him with eyes that reflected the lantern's glow. "This light does not belong to you," she said. Ren, startled, asked, "What is it?" She looked at the lantern for a long moment before answering. "It is the resting place of 1,000 souls. Once, they wandered this land, warriors, children, lovers, thieves. They could not find peace. So the god of this shrine gathered them here, binding them inside the lantern, so they might sleep together until the end of all things." Ren frowned. "And why is it still here, if the god is gone?" The woman's gaze sharpened. "Because the god left, but his duty remained. Someone must keep watch. That someone is me. The temptation." Ren should have left then, but he was a storyteller, and storytellers are drawn to mysteries like moths to flame. "Is it true," he asked carefully, "that whoever takes the lantern will gain great wealth?" The woman's lips tightened. "They will gain nothing but sorrow. To break the lantern is to release the 1,000 souls, and they will follow the thief to the ends of the earth." Her voice was steady, but there was something in her eyes, fear, perhaps, or grief. That night, Ren stayed in the shrine, for the woman offered him a place by the small fire she kept. She told him stories, not his stories, but hers, of battles fought in the mountains, of lovers who leapt from cliffs, of children lost in the snow. And always, the lantern hung above them, swaying gently, its cold light washing over their faces. By morning, Ren had made up his mind. He would take the lantern. The old woman was still asleep when he rose. The mist outside was thick, curling like white fingers through the doorway. He reached up and took the lantern from its hook. The paper felt strangely warm beneath his fingers, and for a moment he thought he heard voices, soft, distant, like people speaking underwater. He stepped outside. The mist seemed to close in around him. Each step down the path felt heavier than the last. And then he heard it, the sound of footsteps behind him, slow and deliberate. He turned, but saw nothing. The 1,000 souls. By the time he reached the valley, night had fallen again. He stayed at the same inn where he had first heard of Shirasawa. That night, he dreamed. In his dream, he stood in a vast field of lanterns, each one glowing with pale light. From every lantern, a figure emerged, a soldier with hollow eyes, a woman with her mouth sewn shut, a child whose skin was as pale as bone. They moved toward him, silent and slow, their faces twisted in longing. He woke to find the room filled with mist. The lantern he had stolen hung above his bed, though he had left it in the corner. Its light had grown brighter, and within it, shadows writhed like fish in a net. A whisper filled the air, "Return us." The reckoning. Ren fled the inn before dawn, the lantern in his hands. The mist followed him, swallowing the road, the trees, the sky. He ran without rest, but no matter how far he went, the path always seemed to twist back toward the mountains. When at last he reached the shrine, the old woman was waiting. "You have heard them," she said. Ren dropped to his knees. "Take it back. Please." She took the lantern from him, cradling it like a child. "You were lucky," she said softly. "If you had waited one more night, they would have taken you among them." Ren left Shirasawa and never returned. He told no one of what he had seen, but in the quiet hours of the night, he sometimes heard voices whispering from the dark corners of his room, calling him back to the mountains. And far away, in the shrine where no one prayed, the lantern of the 1,000 souls swayed gently in the still air, its cold light holding 1,000 restless dreams.